Alright, so today we started surface area. Now surface area is basically not too much different than finding area of irregular polygons. So for starters, these have some blanks in them, so we're going to fill them in. This is going to be the net of a triangular pyramid. So triangular pyramid. Okay? And it is made up of 4 triangles. Now, the triangles will not always be equilateral. Most of the time they will be, but keep in mind there will be some times that the triangles will be different sizes. In this case, they are all the same size. So we start by finding the area of each individual triangle. We can see here the base and the height of one of them is going to be 9 centimeters by 12 centimeters. So, to find the area of a triangle, we simply do base times height, so 9 times 12, and then divide by 2. It is still a triangle. So 9 times 12 would give me 108, divided by 2 gives me 54. And since we know all of these triangles are the same, we know all of them would be 54 centimeters. Okay? Once we have all of that, we need the area of all 4 of them combined. So we add 54 together 4 times. And that's going to give me an area of 216 centimeters squared. Okay? For number 2, it gives us the net of this would be called a rectangular prism, or rectangular prism, yeah. Thought I said something wrong. And this is going to be made from 6 rectangles, or squares. There can be squares involved. Next, we have to find the area of each of these rectangles. So we'll start with rectangle A. And rectangle A has a base of 7.4 and a height of 3.1. So rectangle A is going to be 7.4 times 3.1. Let me go ahead and grab my calculator, make sure we have what we need for this one. And that's going to give me 22.94 centimeters squared. Next, we have rectangle B. Now rectangle B is a little bit different. This has a base of 7.4, but it's clearly taller. This one has a height of 5 centimeters, it looks like. So this one is 7.4 times 5 centimeters. And that is going to give me 37 square centimeters. Okay? Moving on to rectangle C, and it looks kind of familiar. It looks like it has a base of 7.4 and a height of 3.1, the same as rectangle A. And that's not a coincidence. If you've ever looked at a box will have the same front and back, and the same size top and bottom, and the same size left and right. So it makes sense that we're going to have some numbers repeat. And rectangle D, we can see that this is going to be the same shape and size, and therefore the same area as rectangle B. So 7.4 times 5 equals 37 centimeters squared. Now, for rectangle E. Rectangle E has a base of 3.1 and a height of 5. Now 3.1 times 5 gives me 15.5. And we can see rectangle F will be the same. Okay? Now we just take all of those areas and add them together. And that's going to give me 150.88. Let me switch to a easier to see color than that. There we go. That would be the area of my rectangular prism. Let's go ahead and flip this over and have a look at number 3. Number 3, this is the net of what we would call a triangular prism. And it is made up of 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Okay? Now, this process for finding the area of this is the same as it has been for the others. We need to find the area of each and then add them together. Starting with rectangle A, which has a base of 3, and it has a height of 8. It's all written all the way over here, but we can see that the height, 8, applies to the entire shape. So rectangle A is 3 times 8, which that would give me 24. And these are feet squared. Now rectangle B, which has a base of 4 and a height of 8. So this will be 4 times 8, which is 32 feet squared. Afterwards, we have rectangle C, which has a base of 5 and a height of 8. So this would be 5 times 8. And that would be 40. I should point out this won't always happen where the rectangles are different sizes. Sometimes the rectangles will all be exactly the same. Sometimes 2 of them would be the same and 1 of them would be different. You just have to make sure you're paying attention to the measurements as you work. Now for the triangles of this shape, we have triangle D, and that has a base of 4 and a height of 3. And since it's a triangle, we have to do the base times the height and then divide by 2. So 4 times 3 would be 12, but then divide by 2 gives me 6. And my triangles are both the same size. So now that we have the area of each of these shapes, all we have to do now is add them together. And we get an area of 108 feet squared. The last shape, I actually have a typo in here that we need to fix. This is clearly only 5 shapes, not 6. So I need to cross that out and fix this. There we go. So this is called a rectangular pyramid. Now, at first glance, that does look like a square, and in this case, it is. So we need to make a note. Also, sometimes called a square pyramid. The thing is, not all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are squares. So if we call this a rectangular pyramid and it turns out to be a square, that's okay, we're not wrong. But if we called this a square and it turned out to be a rectangle, we would be wrong. So keep that in mind when you're working on these. Now, this is going to be made of 1 rectangle or square, and it's going to be made up from 4 triangles. Okay? Now, the area of rectangle A, this rectangle right here, this has, since we know it's a square, because I've already dropped the ball and told you, we know it's just going to be base times height, 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 would give me 9. 9 inches squared. Okay? Next, we need one of my triangles. Now, we can see the base of the triangles looks like are going to be 3 inches. And the height of each triangle, it looks like will be 8 inches. Now, what you need to understand is that if this shape in the middle is a square, then yes, all of the triangles will be the same. But a little warning for you. If this shape in the middle is a rectangle and not a square, these triangles might be different sizes, so watch out. But in this case, they're all the same. All of them have a base of 3 and a height of 8. And since they are triangles, we must divide by 2. So 3 times 8 would be 24. Divided by 2 gives me 12. So we know that the area for all of them will be 12 inches squared. And the final step for this problem would be to add all of them together. And that gives us 57 inches squared. And that is it for our guided notes on surface area. We are going to be practicing this a little bit more, but really it just comes down to drawing out the net, labeling the sides, and then finding the area of each piece. So it's not terribly different than finding area of complicated polygons. And that is it. Hope this helped.